Okay. God, we did it again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. And there's actually a few things I wanted to talk about today, and I'm in the process of writing an article on rocks, and I'll get to that in a second. But what I actually want to talk about is that the main reason I'm doing this, because the article's not finished, and I normally do a promo with it, but the reason I'm doing this now is because about 2 weeks ago I had a phone call from an original elder called Trudy Roberts, who's local to our area where we live. And lo and behold, we spoke about the fact that we actually were working at Ballina High School at the same time. I was working there, working with kids who had problems and disabilities. And she got in contact with me, and it was about the Seven Sisters. Now, as you probably are aware, that's a focal point of our story about what took place at Uluru on the 21st of December. The Pleiadian involvement, the crystals that were placed there, and the fact that the world is now changing. And I've mentioned it, and I've spoken to elders about this. I remember asking Alan Parsons once and said, did you want to talk about it? And he basically said what I do, which is, yeah, I can mention it in passing and say a few things, but I can't do the details because I'm a male. And that's been the same for me. I've just given the vaguest of outlines, and I don't have much more to it than that anyway. The point I'm getting at is Trudy is actually one of the keepers of the full Seven Sisters story. And she contacted me because she felt that she needed to put the full story out, things that hadn't been shared before. And I couldn't believe she was ringing because we've been looking for this for months. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because this is not on the promos and we can't stick it on our poster because this is a late edition. We're giving up half an hour of our presentation so that Trudy can talk about the two things that she spoke about in some detail to me quite a few times since. And I'm ringing her later on today about this too. Number one, she wants to talk about the full story of the Seven Sisters from the Pleiades and share that with him. And by the way, she's been in contact with me since and said she's been to her elders and they're all okay with this. And I think it's really important at this time because things are really in a chaotic state. And I'm not going to mention specifics because we get thrown off if we do. But they are in a chaotic state. And what we're trying to offer in these presentations is an alternative way out of this. Now, and what we try and do is we try and give information that leads people to understand that what all the indigenous people of the world believe is happening right now with the two roads or the door in the hole or the fast flowing river, whatever you want to call it, whatever they've called it. They're all their terms, not ours. It's happening now. And people have to make a decision. And what we're offering in these presentations, and we will be in the next couple for sure, is that path out. It's empirical and in other ways. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the things I'm just passing on is we now have, Trudy, we're doing a first presentation. We'll get her back for sure, don't worry. We get a lot of elders back and we intend to continue doing that as this evolves. But the second part of her presentation, and I had mentioned this to her, and I certainly didn't prompt, was the fact that the change is coming. And again, she had permission from her elders to talk about this, and this makes it a bit more special. It's okay to talk about the past, but there aren't many original people who are prepared to sort of go out in front of the public and talk about the change, and she's one of them. She insisted she had some time to talk about the fact there's a change ahead and it's here now. Just the same thing as the Hoppy said. So I'm recommending this particular episode, if for no other reason than the half hour when Trudy speaks. And of course, yes, we've got Diego talking about the alien issue from Italy, and we've also got Geraldine. And I'll talk about this more next time, what they're going to do. And Geraldine's doing a legal framework once the change takes place, which might sound bizarre. But the theme of this one is skirting on around the perimeter. Now, the second part of this story, which is also evolving, and I've been in contact with people from another state right now about this, and it's coming to fruition, is what we're going to do is we're going to take the rocks, and remember, I've said before, these are rocks that come from more ancient times, not from 6 stone and bone technology. They come from way back when more sophisticated technology was in Australia. the time of Lemuria and just after. And these rocks were made then, and they belong to Southern Law Confederation. All of the rocks we have belong to Southern Law Confederation, and we have had some that didn't, and I've given them all back. And there's actually film of me giving back the most amazing crystal artifact to Barbara Randall, Bobby Randall's wife, in Uluru, because it didn't come from Southern Law area. And we're putting all these rocks back into Southern Law. And this is the important part, Southern Law geography. I'm not saying where yet, but I am saying it's not in New South Wales. It's not in Victoria. It's somewhere else. And what's going to happen is they will be put up in a formation where they will be healing. And the rocks have actually given me permission to say this. I didn't know they were going to do exactly what they were going to do. They're making a guarantee to people, which I'm going to pass on now. Once they're set up, and that will only be a couple of months away because they need to be set up quickly, anyone that sits inside, it'll work like this. They can sit inside them for 10 minutes. I've never done 10 before. I've done 3 and 5, but never 10. They can sit inside one, and then 2 hours later, after a long enough break, then the second one. They cannot come back for another 2 days if they wish to return, because there needs to be time to take that in. Now, what they offer is for people who are suffering at the moment and finding this difficult. They will give them strength, they will give them wisdom, they will give them things that they need. And the deal is if they were deserving of it, they get it. Now, what also happens is some people might go there and they're not quite ready. It's been made very clear. The rocks will make that clear. They'll start to get uneasy. They'll start to move around. They'll feel uncomfortable when they're there. And if worse comes to worse, their nose will bleed. We won't get to that stage because we have a person watching when they're sitting near the rocks. And once they see they're not right for those rocks, they're given their money back. It's $10 for 10 minutes. And we're trying to make this as cheap as we can so everyone can do it. But we have people working there too. This is their job now. These original people need to be paid for what they're doing because they're actually guardians of these rocks. And what we're offering people during this time, for those that are ready, they will get something from this. This is their guarantee. And for those that aren't, if they get nothing, they're refunded. They don't lose a thing out of it. They're guaranteeing they want to heal people and give them strength right now. So I'm suggesting the story of the rocks I'm going to do on our next presentation, which we're inviting you to join. I'm going to show you some of these rocks. And I'm also going to, because I made a claim here about the fact they have some sort of mystical or magical powers, I'm going to discuss 8 occasions where people have seen what these rocks can do that break all the laws of science, because these rocks are sentient. They're aware. And they have a power, and that power is immense. And they work symbiotically with humans. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you, we're going to do an experiment on the day to show you exactly how this works. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm writing an article which will contain 8 of those events. So if you read it, you'll get to hear it again. But I want to put that up because I want people to understand I've done one article on 3 of these rocks, and I've got 7 more to do because I've chosen 10 to pick from, and they'll all be shown on this day, plus others that won't be written about. And I'm also going to try and explain to you why they have what I claim they can do. And you have to take us on our word on this because we've got no film of this. These are things these rocks have done that make me believe I can confidently guarantee to people once they're in formation and set up, if you want to go to that place, you will get something from it. If you really deserve it and want it, you'll be given something. I can tell you, hundreds of people have done 3 minutes and 5 minutes on these rocks. Under guidance, always under guidance. And that was at their behest, not mine. Nobody came back and complained. And nearly everyone came back and did the opposite. I know they work. But they've worked a bit then. They're going to work a lot more now because things are tougher. So that's something we'll be talking about. And the last thing I want to mention is something I'm going to say each time from now on. Every couple of days in the Sydney Morning Herald, there's a full-page ad by Google or podcast or Facebook. And it's the same narrative. We have blocked millions of nasty things that would have got to you. And there's a picture of 2 people looking at their computer, punching things and looking happy and content. We've saved you from all these things. Now, I'm going to not discuss all the other things. I am going to discuss ours. In our case, our contact through Facebook and our bookings, I think I mentioned before, they've dropped by 95%. Our contacts everywhere are dropping massively. The last month in December, we had 60,000 people, but just 59,000 people, plus about 4,000 shares that went to our site. Straight after and forever since, it's dropped massively by 1/7, 1/10 of everything that happened before. And it's continued like that. And I'm reading, and I know we're part of what people have been saved from. My concern is that wouldn't worry me except for one thing. I believe we have a message that's really important today. That message that is contained in every one of our presentations about what happened at Uluru. And I believe that message needs to get out there. So what I'm going to ask you, if you've seen this particular presentation of me talking, as usual, with my less than appealing face, and I don't think I brushed my hair today. I didn't even do that. My apologies. I was going to do it, but I forgot. But I did have a shave. With all that in front of you, the one thing I can offer is this, that I honestly believe what happened to Uluru, and there were 300 people, and you can ask any of them that were there, they'll tell you the same thing, was galactically changing. It changes everything. And right now, we're in a period of flux where the human resonance can't be measured anymore, where everything is going off the scale, both ways. And we believe we know what the other way is. I'm not saying we're there, because I'm not there myself, and I may not get there, but I know where I'm supposed to be walking. I'm asking if you think that I believe that that's correct. Then if you have other people right now who are suffering or need to know this, let them know about this. Try and convince them. Get them to look at this one, and maybe they'll come to our next presentation, where I'm going to talk about the rocks, where an elder's going to talk about the Pleiadians that came before and why the change is coming now. And then we'll talk about different aspects. This one, I'm trying to cover the periphery. I'm calling this skirting around the edges, with different pieces of this puzzle that sit on the edge of where we've been before. Then we lock into another theme, which is a bit more, say, solid. This one's meant to, it was always meant to, one where I had these different pieces, and I've tried to put together a narrative where they fit together, but it is skirting around the edges, and that's why, to an extent, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we get the seven sisters and a keeper, and there are very few, a woman's keeper that's going to share with men that are going to hear things, and she's got permission to do this because of what's going on. If for no other reason than that half hour is vitally important, because it's a call that's come from the elders. And for those who believe I don't have the right, this lady is a Roberts. Where we come from, that's probably the most, that name, everybody knows that name. They go right back. All the major important elders of the past were Roberts. Not all of them. I mean, some were others too, but that name has pedigree. And this is coming from them. So I'm asking you, if for no other reason than that, share this with others and join us in this next presentation. I've heard little bits of what she's got to say, and that's why I've brought this up. You need to hear what she's going to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for now. I've probably taken far too much time as usual, and if you put up with this and you think others could put up with it and need to hear it, please share it and pass it on, because I can tell you now, we can't. I think if Evan shares it with 3 people, that's it, we're gone. We're off for good, so we've got to be so careful. We just share it with ourselves and hope others pick it up. This time round, I'm asking you to do us a favour and help us spread this news, because it needs to get out there. Thanks for joining us, and now I'll try and turn it off. Evan! So, my apologies. I can't find the turning off thing.
I think it's doing it now.
Well, it's still going. I didn't touch it. Look, it's live.
Starting.
Oh, we're doing this again. Our apologies, this happened last time.
So what did I do last time? Do you remember?
No, I know it went on for a minute and a bit.
I think I logged out completely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, bear with us. It's happened again. It's not my fault for once. Normally it is, but this is not.